At dawn, 50 Comanche warriors encircled Caleb Thornfield's ranch, their war paint vivid in the early light. Their intent was clear: they wanted the girl Caleb had hidden in his barn 3 hours earlier. The Texas prairie, harsh and unforgiving in 1876, was no stranger to violence. Soldiers, bandits, and tribal raids were weekly occurrences. But this moment felt different, heavier, as if the land itself held its breath. 3 hours prior, Caleb had been checking his cattle near Willow Creek when gunshots shattered the quiet. The sound wasn't unusual, but these carried a desperate edge, a finality that pricked his instincts. Urging his horse toward the noise, he ignored the voice in his head urging him to turn back. Smart ranchers stayed out of trouble, but Caleb, at 38, had never been accused of being smart. What he found changed everything. Behind a fallen cottonwood lay a young Comanche girl, no older than 16, bleeding from an army bullet lodged in her shoulder. Her buckskin dress was crimson, her breathing shallow and pained. Her dark eyes burned with defiance, not fear, even as she lay dying. Caleb's hand drifted to his rifle. 3 years ago, Comanche raiders had burned his neighbor's farm and killed his wife, Sarah. The smart move was to ride away, let the harsh frontier claim another life. One less Comanche meant a safer territory, but those eyes, fierce, unyielding, reminded him of Sarah's, not in appearance but in their refusal to surrender. When the girl tried to crawl away, leaving a trail of blood, she spat rapid Comanche words, her meaning clear: "Stay back." Caleb dismounted, hands raised to show he meant no harm. Her breathing grew weaker. Without help, she'd be dead within the hour. He thought of the promise he'd made at Sarah's grave, to never let hatred consume what was left of his soul. Scooping her into his arms, he felt her weak struggles fade as blood loss took hold. She was malnourished, barely a wisp, likely fleeing with her band for weeks. The ride back to his ranch was tense, every shadow a potential war party, every bird call a warning. Her labored breaths were the only sound as he pressed on. In his barn, he laid her on fresh hay. The bullet had to come out immediately. Heating his knife in the fire, he prepared for crude surgery. The girl's eyes fluttered open, confusion and terror mixing as she watched him. Why was this white man helping her? What did he want? Caleb didn't have answers, only action. For 20 agonizing minutes, she bit a leather strap to stifle screams as he dug out bullet fragments. Blood soaked the hay, but the bleeding finally stopped. Exhausted, she passed out. Then came the war drums, growing closer with each beat. At sunrise, they stopped. Peering through the barn slats, Caleb counted 50 warriors in a perfect circle around his ranch. Their leader, an older man with gray-streaked braids and scars crisscrossing his chest, sat tall on a painted stallion. The girl stirred, fever burning through her small frame, whispering something in Comanche. Caleb didn't need to understand the words to know she was calling for her father. The chief raised his hand, and the circle tightened. Caleb checked his weapons: 1 rifle, 2 pistols, 30 rounds. Against 50 seasoned fighters, he'd last 5 minutes if lucky. Running wasn't an option, the girl couldn't be moved, and war horses would overtake him on the open prairie. The chief's voice thundered in broken English: "White man, you have what belongs to us." Caleb's mouth went dry. How could he explain? He'd saved their daughter's life, risked everything, but to them, he was a settler who'd taken something precious. Negotiation seemed futile. They'd see her rescue as kidnapping, her surgery as torture. The girl, Ayanna, tried to sit up, wincing, her eyes showing new understanding. She knew Caleb had made himself a target, that he made a choice that would haunt him. Stepping out of the barn, hands raised, he left his weapons behind. 50 arrows tracked him, fingers tight on bowstrings. "She's alive," he called. "Your daughter is alive, but she's hurt bad." The chief's rage intensified. A white man claiming to help was worse than one who harmed. Enemies were honest. "You lie," he spat. "Show her." Caleb realized his mistake. Showing Ayanna's bloodied bandages would look like torture, not treatment. Refusing would provoke an attack. Behind him, Ayanna struggled to her feet, determination overriding pain. She stumbled from the barn, clutching her shoulder, and spoke 3 Comanche words that drained the color from her father's war paint. "He saved me," the chief's stallion reared. Silence fell, broken only by wind and creaking leather as warriors shifted, uncertain. But the chief's lieutenant, a young warrior with fresh scalps on his belt, whispered urgently, gesturing at Caleb. To him, this was a trick, a trap. Ayanna took 3 shaky steps toward her father and collapsed, her fever overwhelming her. Caleb moved to help, but 20 arrows swung toward him. "Don't," the chief warned. 2 Comanche women rushed to Ayanna, examining her bandages. Their faces softened as they recognized the quality of the wound care. The older woman nodded to the chief. The girl had been treated well. The lieutenant rode closer, his horse's hooves stopping inches from Caleb's boots. Scars crisscrossed his face, hatred burning in his eyes. "She is chief's daughter. You take her, you die. All white men die." This wasn't about Ayanna anymore. The lieutenant wanted war, revenge for past grievances. The chief studied Caleb. "Why help enemy?" "Because she was dying," Caleb said, "and I couldn't watch someone die when I could prevent it." The chief's expression shifted, a father recognizing humanity. But the lieutenant spat, raising his rifle. "Lies. White man lies. He keeps her for slave." Doubt crept into the chief's eyes. Ayanna spoke again, louder, her words making the lieutenant's face pale with rage. She accused him of leading her into an army ambush, trading Comanche lives for cavalry gold. The chief's hand gripped his tomahawk, not for Caleb but for the traitor. The lieutenant shouted, "You speak lies, girl. Fever makes you crazy." But his voice cracked. 3 warriors moved to surround him. Desperate, he swung his rifle toward Ayanna to silence her. Caleb tackled him from his horse, and they hit the ground hard, wrestling for the weapon. The ranch erupted into chaos, horses reared, warriors shouted, some aiming at Caleb, others at the traitor. The lieutenant's knife sliced Caleb's ribs, but adrenaline dulled the pain. They rolled, the blade pressing toward Caleb's throat. "You should have minded your own business, white man," the lieutenant hissed. Caleb's hand found a rock. One swing to the temple, and the traitor went limp, unconscious. Silence settled. 50 warriors stared at the white man who protected their chief's daughter. The chief dismounted, his eyes meeting Caleb's. "You fight to protect my daughter." "I'd do it again," Caleb said, surprising himself. The chief nodded, then offered a beaded medicine bag. "My daughter says you lost wife to our people. This cannot bring her back, but it protects you." Gunshots erupted from the ridge. 20 cavalry soldiers appeared, rifles aimed. The lieutenant's betrayal ran deeper. He'd signaled the army, luring the Comanche into a trap. "Take cover!" Caleb shouted. The warriors used horses and buildings as shields, turning the ranch into a fortress. The cavalry commander shouted, "Thornfield, step away from the hostiles. We're here to rescue you." Caleb glanced at the chief, protecting Ayanna behind a water trough. "Go," the chief said. "This is not your war." But Caleb grabbed his Winchester and cartridges. The army thought they were saving him, they'd learn otherwise. Emerging, he took aim at the ridge. "You choose to fight with us?" the chief asked, incredulous. "I choose what's right," Caleb replied. His first shot dropped the cavalry sergeant. Bullets shattered his cabin as the soldiers fired. Queso Grande fired at their rescuer. The Comanche fought with precision, making every shot count. The cavalry's frontal assaults failed, costing them men. The lieutenant stirred, crawling for a rifle to shoot Ayanna. A Comanche warrior's arrow pierced his chest, ending the traitor's threat. The chief nodded grimly. Justice served. The battle turned as ranchers from nearby arrived, drawn by gunfire. They saw Caleb fighting alongside the Comanche, protecting a wounded girl. Pete Murdoch challenged the cavalry commander, who drew his pistol. The chief's tomahawk killed him before he could fire. The soldiers surrendered, demoralized. Colonel Hayes arrived under a white flag, assessing the scene. He proposed a face-saving lie. Commander Patterson attacked peaceful negotiations, a misunderstanding. The Comanche would leave, Caleb would remain a respected rancher. Ayanna refused to leave until healed, staying at Caleb's ranch under Comanche law. They shared stories, languages, and hopes for peace. When she left, strong and healthy, the chief's protection ensured Caleb's land was never raided again. Caleb became a mediator, his ranch a neutral ground for Comanche and settlers. Ayanna grew into a peace negotiator, using skills Caleb taught her. When Caleb died 30 years later, the medicine bag hung from his belt, surrounded by neighbors, white and Comanche, who mourned a man who chose honor over hate.